Thank you and welcome to the webinar series from the Eye and Ear Foundation called Sight and Sound Bites. This bi-weekly webinar series highlights the research at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine in the departments of ophthalmology and otolaryngology. I'm Lawton Snyder, CEO of the Eye and Ear Foundation. The Eye and Ear Foundation supports research to advance care for vision, hearing, balance, voice, and cancers of the head and neck at the two world-renowned departments of ophthalmology and otolaryngology at the University of Pittsburgh. The funds we provide through the Eye and Ear Foundation to support research are only made possible because of philanthropic support. We greatly appreciate those who have been donors to the Eye and Ear Foundation. If anybody has interest in learning how to become a donor, you can reach us through the link and the email address that was attached to your link to Craig Smith, and find out how you can support or just contact the foundation or our website, www.eyeandear.org. A few housekeeping rules, because you recognize Zoom now. A lot of us have seen this, but this is a Zoom webinar product. So on this, we disable the chat so that all you can link into or click onto is the Q&A button. The Q&A is for questions and answers throughout the program. At any time, if you'd like to type in a question, click on the box and type it in. We'll hold questions until the end. So after the speakers have presented their material, I'll read the questions and they'll answer them. And we will ask to, refrain from questions that would only be pertaining to you, very personal health questions. But if there are some questions we can help you with outside of the webinar, please send us an email. Please feel free to use the subtitles. We provide that through this Zoom product, and that is also at the bottom of your screen. You can click and use that. And we're going to send you a survey. Whether you like it or not, we're going to send you a survey. We appreciate the feedback that we get from these, and we've used it to really enhance our programs. And then we'll also continue to send you invitations to future programs, which again are done every other week, coming from the Eye and Ear Foundation. Let me introduce today's speakers. We have two wonderful speakers and a very important topic that I think a lot of people will find very interesting and informative, and something that many of us need to understand. And so the topic, contact lens safety, the benefits of new technology. Dr. Ellen Butts is a clinical assistant professor of ophthalmology. Is going to be this first speaker, and then you're going to hear from, and I think they're going to go back and forth a little bit, but you're going to hear from also Dr. Scott Drexler, who's assistant professor of ophthalmology and contact lens and vision enhancement services at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine. Thank you both for joining us. Dr. Butts, I believe you're going to get us started, and looking forward to today's program.
Oh, thank you for having us. So contact lens and infections. There's over 140 million contact lens wearers worldwide. Incidence in contact lens infections is ranging from about 2 to 20 cases per 10,000 patients. On the lower end of that, you're going to have your hard contact lenses, your RGPs, your scleral lenses, and the higher end is going to be your soft contact lens wearers. We see infections more commonly in those types of patients. Now, if you're a patient who wears extended wear or longer replacement than just a daily disposable, you're going to be 20 times more likely to get an infection than a daily disposable lens wearer. Why is this important? The most common microbial keratitis bacteria is caused by Pseudomonas aeruginosa. This is important because increasingly we're seeing that we're finding clinical isolates that are resistant to virtually all antibiotics that we have. This highlights why research in this area is so important, but not only research, also our patients taking care of their lenses and learning how to practice healthy contact lens habits to prevent these infections in the first place.
Hi, everybody. I just want to get started kind of telling you some of the best things you can do. Some of these practice, some of these habits are actually things that might be kind of a review for you. It might seem pretty common sense. Some of them are not so much. Some of them are things that you probably don't think about that much. So we're going to start from the beginning here and go on through. First thing you really want to do anytime you handle your contact lenses is wash your hands. Your hands take everything you touch, everything around you, and puts it in your eyes when you take your contacts in or out. So when you get a chance, when you're handling your lenses, wash your hands before warm soapy water, about 30 seconds to a minute. You don't have to be carried away with it. Just get a good wash. It probably is the single most important way to stop the spread of all the pathogens around you. Not just contact lens wise, it's the flu, it's everything else that we deal with in our current environment. So washing your hands is the single most important thing you can do. Don't forget to dry your hands off when they're done, because again, tap water, as you'll see if we talk through this whole thing, tap water is a problem. So when you're done washing your hands, make sure you dry your hands off. Next thing you want to do, think of your contact lens case. Your contact lens case is kind of like your own personal petri dish. So it's moist, it's dark, and you're putting your contact lens in it. So you really have to make sure that you clean it. Right? You should do your best to clean it daily, and make sure that the surface is clean, the surface is dry. Right? The contact lens case that you have, try and replace it every 1 to 3 months. Most contact lens solutions that you buy are actually things that they usually give you a spare case with it for that purpose. So don't take it out of the box and put it in your drawer thinking you're going to save it for a rainy day. Replace it. Take the old one, throw it out, use the new one. That's what it's there for. It's clean and it minimizes a lot of problems. One of the things that we see happen frequently with my patients in general, is that they say, okay, I take my contact lens out of my case in the morning, I put it in my eye, my case is full of solution. I can just recap it, top it off at night, and make sure there's plenty of solution in there. Remember that the solution that's in that case was exposed to everything around it. So it is not nearly as effective in sterilizing your lens as it was when you put it in. So when you're done, as part of your cleaning process, take your case, dump it out, make sure that it's empty, and then make sure it's clean. Best way to clean your case, rinse it with solution. And so the solution is an antibacterial. You want the bacteria out of your case. So rinse your case with solution, rinse it off. Don't have to use a lot, just give it a good rinse. Take a tissue, mechanically rub the inside of the case. And again, that mechanical part is important. You're not necessarily drying it. What it actually does is it rubs the debris. It rubs the particles, the bacteria off the inside of the case, and then let that case air dry. Ideally upside down, but if you can't put it upside down, or if the counter's not that clean, cover it with a tissue.
Dr. Drexler mentioned cleaning with solution. We want to reiterate, no tap water. I feel like I'm constantly surprising my patients with this and telling them no tap water. They think, oh, it's safe to drink, it must be safe for my eyes. Well, we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail later, but know that there is an amoeba that lives in our tap water that it's okay if we ingest it, but if it gets into our eyes, we can be in a big problem.
So we'll come back and you're going to hear that over and over again. The waters, the things around us, that become so important, and they really carry a lot of the things that threaten your eyes and your contacts. One of the other things you can do is make sure you replace your lenses as they're scheduled to. And that as scheduled part is the important thing. There's daily lenses, there's 2-week lenses, there's monthly lenses. The important thing to do is to follow the schedule for your lens. If you take a daily disposable lens and you wear it for a week, you're probably going to have a problem. If you take a 2-week lens and wear it for 2 months, you're increasing your risk of a problem. So whatever your lens choice is, and again, the safest lens is a daily disposable lens, but whatever your lens choice is, make sure you follow the rules for that lens so you don't give yourself more of a likelihood of having an issue.
And when you're wearing lenses that you aren't disposing of daily, you need to think, you can't be sleeping in these contacts. I surprise patients when I say, I know it's FDA approved, I understand, but you are just welcoming infection. You're allowing there to be a barrier between your eyelid where you're getting your oxygen from while you're sleeping and your cornea that needs the oxygen. So despite the fact that they are FDA approved, many, not all, but there are lenses that exist that are FDA approved for sleeping in your contact lenses. We say skip sleeping in them, just be safe. Go for safety, take your contact lenses out. You're going to drastically reduce your risk of getting an infection or having other serious complications from lack of oxygen reaching the cornea.
I agree with that entirely. You know, one of the things I usually tell my patients is that the best way you can kind of wear a lens, if you choose to wear a 2-week or a monthly lens, wearing an extended wear lens on a daily wear basis increases how much oxygen gets to your eye and it helps you out. Another thing to do is if you're ill, if you're sick, flu, anything you're exposed to, don't wear your contacts, because again, everything on your hands gets transmitted to your eyes when you put your contacts in or take them out. So any virus, any bacteria, you blow your nose, you take your contact lens out, that bacteria is going into your eye, and it's just not something you want to have to increase your risk with.
Absolutely. And again, reiterating on this no water thing, take caution when you're swimming, showering, or in hot tubs. All of these are bodies of water. Not only when you're swimming in contact lenses in a pool are you getting the chemicals absorbed into your lenses, but you're also exposing them to water. And that can increase your risk of serious corneal infection.
So on that one, I want to interject a little bit of reality. My prescription before I had LASIK done many years ago, I was a -7. I realistically couldn't go swimming. I couldn't go in the ocean without having my contact lenses in. It's unrealistic to have a pair of glasses on a lot of times. So if you're in that situation where you know you're exposed, you're in the hot tub, as soon as you're done, get your lenses out, get them out, rinse them off, clean them, and it's a much safer way. If you leave that lens in after you do those things, every minute the bacteria is there, you're exposed to those things, it increases your risk.
Goggles are always a great option too, and you can get goggles with your prescription in them.
Going back to your contact lenses now, and a couple little tips that you can really do to kind of minimize what kind of debris you get on your lens. When you're putting your lens in the morning or whenever you have to put it in, take your lens out, put it in the palm of your hand, rub it gently with there. Again, that kind of like your contact lens case, that mechanical pressure takes the debris off the lens. It takes some of the buildup off the lens. It rubs the bacteria off the lens before you put it in your eye. So if you can do that, then rub it gently, rinse it with solution, then put it in. It keeps your eye safer, keeps your lens more comfortable. Talking about solutions, and it's one of the big things you'll see us come back to through this, using the right solution is important. There's basically two main kinds of solutions. One's a multi-purpose solution, which basically uses some sort of biocidal chemical to sterilize the lens. The other type is a hydrogen peroxide system. Each one has its pro and it has its con, and I think that that's kind of going to be the personal choice, but there's certain things that I think if you look at the solutions and if you have certain problems, you can kind of pick a solution based on the difficulties you're having. Multi-purpose solutions are chemicals. They use a chemical to kill the bacteria. That chemical gets into the lens, it leaches out of the lens, it gets in your eye. So it has an effect both on the lens itself and also on your eye surface. So if you're prone to dry eyes, it's not going to help the situation. If you're having difficulty with the lens, and actually some of the solutions actually change the structure of the lens, so it'll change the fit of the lens for you too. So if you can kind of look at that and say, okay, yes, multi-purpose solutions are usually easier to be compliant with. And all you have to do is open your case, squirt the solution in, let it sit. Right? So yeah, it's simple. So for some people, it's an ideal thing to do because it's simple, and if you can be consistent with it and actually do the process, it's great to do. Hydrogen peroxide systems basically use H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, use a catalyst, convert that hydrogen peroxide to water. So it ends up being H2O2 to H2O and oxygen. So it bubbles when you put your lens in. end product of the hydrogen peroxide is water. So all you're actually putting in your eye at the end of the cleaning process is water. So there's no chemical to leach out of the lens. There's nothing to really distort the lens. And it actually does a little bit better job at killing some of the pathogens like acanthamoeba.
I find hydrogen peroxide is really great for patients with allergies as well. If you have allergies to any of the preservatives, the hydrogen peroxide tends to be the winner there.
And for me, in my particular clinic, I fit a lot of people with concomitant eye problems. They have a lot of dry eye problems. They have a lot of corneal problems. Anybody who already has a compromised eye wants to use a hydrogen peroxide system. You don't want to add insult to injury. So it's better at cleaning the bugs, it keeps the lens cleaner, and it can be used on both a soft lens and a hard lens too. Real simple thing to do too, have a backup pair of glasses. It sounds like a no-brainer, but a lot of people depend on their contacts. They take their contacts out, go to bed, and never have a pair of glasses. Time comes that you have an irritation and you don't want to put your contacts in, but you don't have glasses. You don't have a choice. So you end up wearing a contact lens on an irritated eyeball, which makes it worse, not better. So backup glasses, they don't have to be a thing of beauty. They just have to be functional. Sunday morning comes, you're not feeling that good, pop your glasses on, leave your contacts out. That little bit of downtime can make a huge difference in as far as that letting your eye heal. Lens choice, and I think that all of us will agree on this topic. A daily disposable, if you look back at all the things we just saw as being major issues, a daily disposable addresses most of them. Like, you don't really have a contact lens solution. You don't really have a dirty contact lens. If a lens is damaged, you're not dealing with it. You're not dealing with any kind of risk from a contact lens case. You get out of the hot tub, you throw your lens out. You're not worrying about that part either. So if you can, go with a daily disposable lens. They make them in torics, they make them in multifocals. You can really get any type of lens you want in a daily disposable, and it really truly is the safest way of doing it. I have 3 kids, all of them wear daily disposables, every one of them. And they, for the most part, always have. And it's just overall the best way of going. If you wear a gas permeable lens, and again, I said a lot of my patients wear gas permeable lenses, I actually make sure that they have 2 pair of lenses and they rotate them. So they can take one pair, clean it really well, wear the other pair the next day, and you always have a backup pair and you always have a good, clean pair of lenses. Last thing, and this is probably just me being a little bit green for you, all the trend toward daily disposable lenses, and I walk through my daughter's room and I see daily disposable contacts all over the floor. It has truly increased the amount of packaging, the amount of contact lenses, and everything that goes along with it. So if you can, recycle it. The problem we get into is that these contact lens and the packaging is too small for traditional recycling. So if you put it in a bag and you put it in your recycle bin, they're just going to throw it out. It falls through all the screens, it falls through all the things that sort the materials. So we can't do it that way. Bausch & Lomb did a great thing, and they started a one-by-one program, which basically encourages the practitioners to collect these things from you and then ship them to Bausch & Lomb, which then in turn deals with TerraCycle. And TerraCycle takes that, sorts it all, breaks it down, recycles the aluminum packed labels on them, and it takes all the plastic, melts it down, and makes products out of it. I know they make both picnic tables and playground equipment with it too. So if you can find a way to recycle those parts and pieces, you don't have to do a lot with it, put it into a package. And if you just Google actually Bausch & Lomb 1x1, it comes up to their website and you can type in your zip code and it'll tell you the closest practitioner who will accept it for you.
And we recently filled ours up at our Forbes office, but we're working on getting another one. They're really sought after. So we're really excited about that because we like to be as green as possible.
So all that being said, so now we've talked about all those great things we can do to make this not happen. So this is the things, and I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss this. if you are having a problem, how do you know it? Obviously there's if your eye looks like this, you're probably going to be aware of it, but there's little things, and the big things start out as little things. So something as simple as lens discomfort, you put it in, it just doesn't feel right. It's telling you something. So take it out. If it still doesn't feel right, don't wear it. Eyes are tearing, again, a sign. Light sensitivity, you walk out in the light to work, going to work, and all of a sudden you're just offended by it. It's a good sign something's going on. There's some kind of inflammation there. Burning, redness, changes in vision are a big thing. Swelling is kind of an obvious thing, and any kind of pain. Contact lens wear typically should not be a painful experience. So if you're putting a lens in and it's painful, you probably have something going on. It's probably worth getting checked.
Absolutely. So Dr. Drexler highlighted how your contact lens case can become somewhat of a petri dish. Contact lens cases, after approximately a week, can start to form what's called a biofilm or a bacteria community. That's why you want to be diligent about cleaning and disinfecting your cases daily. Again, no tap water, only use contact lens solution, use a clean cloth, even a clean finger, just to dislodge that bacteria, the debris. And then what I like to do, what I like to tell patients is take a clean cloth, a paper towel, and turn the case upside down just to allow it to air dry. You want new solution every day, which Dr. Drexler already highlighted on, and then replace your case every 1 to 3 months. The cases can actually absorb some of the chemicals from the multi-purpose solutions, and the cases that come with your contact lens solution are going to be the best quality. Those flat pack ones will sometimes give you in the office just for wearing your lenses, taking them out so we can dilate. Those aren't the best ones to be using regularly. The plastics are different. We want you to be using the ones that come with your contact lens solution. And again, highlighting on that drinking water, safe to drink, not for the eyes. And I kind of touched on the fact that there is a single amoeba, free living amoeba that lives in freshwater, oceans, lakes, HVAC systems, tap water, distilled water. It's found in nature, it's found in our tap water. While it's common in nature, the infection is not very common. The reason it's not common is because it requires direct contact with the eyes in order to cause infection. And furthermore, not only does it require direct contact, but it also requires a microabrasion or a scrape on the surface in order for the amoeba to find its way into the cornea. Now, it's a very serious infection, very difficult to treat, often causes permanent vision loss, blindness. They often end up in Dr. Drexler's clinic because they end up having a corneal transplant and then need a specialty contact lens in order to give them some sort of vision afterwards. You cannot catch acanthamoeba keratitis from another patient. You're not going to be with your brother, sister, mom, dad, and catch it from them because it needs direct contact with your eye. Now, as far as the acanthamoeba keratitis cases that we see, about 85% of them are in contact lens wearers because contact lens wearers are more likely to have these little microabrasions on their surface. And we'll go into that more in detail later. Of the 85% of patients that are contact lens wearers that end up with AK, over 80% of them are soft contact lens wearers. And that's why Dr. Drexler and I are really trying to bring it home, the importance of preventing these infections and staying away from tap water, cleaning your lenses appropriately, replacing them appropriately.
Can I add something with that about your acanthamoeba? So
Absolutely.
an interesting story that I practiced in Florida for almost 20 years. And it was kind of a typical thing for us that after every hurricane that went through, we'd get a cluster of acanthamoeba infections. And it was almost like, okay, let's wait for them to come in. And we ended up being able to figure out what it came from because it usually didn't happen right after the hurricane. It was about a week after. So when the hurricane blew through, it knocked things down, it left puddles of water everywhere. The water would sit and get contaminated, but then they'd go clean it up. When they cleaned it up, they would get the water in their eyes, and they're usually contact lens wearers, on their hands, put it in their eyes, and then they get the acanthamoeba from that. So that's, again, kind of comes back to making sure that any type of water, not just tap water is not that clean, but any type of water is really a risk from a contact lens point of view, from an eye point of view too.
Absolutely agree.
Microbial keratitis is basically just a bacterial infection, and it is one of the most common results of any kind of contact lens related complication. We've gone through a lot of things that we can do to kind of make sure we minimize our risk for that. But now we have to start, in order to make things better, we have to start understanding why we have this happening. So when you get any kind of difficulty with your eye, it usually comes from a breakdown in the surface, in the tissue. So that top layer of your cornea, the top layer of your eye itself is mostly epithelium. That epithelium is thin, but it's the protective layer that kind of keeps everything else out. If that layer is damaged somehow, it lets things in. In sense of a contact lens, the three things that predominantly cause damage to that layer, one is hypoxia, the decrease in the amount of oxygen that gets to the cornea. But contact lenses are mechanical things. It sits on your cornea and it moves. So each time you blink, it rubs a little bit. If you have an ill-fitting contact lens, it's going to have more mechanical damage to your cornea. That in itself can cause a problem, a break in the tissue. Coming back to our multi-purpose solutions, those chemicals that go into the lens at night to sterilize the lens, they leach back out through the day. And it's a chemical, and it can actually break down the corneal tissue, which causes more problems too.
Dr. Drexler just mentioned hypoxia and how that can lead to microbial keratitis. So how do contact lenses lead to hypoxia? Well, to understand that, we really have to understand how the cornea gets its oxygen. When the eyes are open, what's happening is we're getting oxygen from the atmosphere that dissolves in our tear film, and then the tear film, then the cornea then absorbs it from the tear film. When our eyes are closed, the blood vessels from inside the eyelid are actually the source of oxygen for the cornea. The cornea of itself lacks blood vessels, so it needs this external oxygen supply. During contact lens wear, when we have a contact on top of our cornea, there's a barrier there. So we rely on tear circulation when the eye is open, when you're blinking. When your eyes are closed, when you're sleeping, tear circulation is minimal. And there's also a barrier between the eyelid where the blood vessels are usually giving, the blood vessels from the eyelid are usually giving the cornea oxygen. There's a barrier there. So that's why your doctors are always paying attention to the oxygen transmissibility of the lens they're choosing for you. Another reason why wearing contacts at night, despite the fact that it might have good oxygen transmissibility, it's not the same as not having a lens there. If you look in this picture, these are new blood vessels that are growing onto the cornea. These new blood vessels are not the healthy type of blood vessels. They're not serving a purpose of bringing the appropriate oxygen to the cornea. In fact, they're putting you at risk for ulcers or abrasions by reducing the cornea's ability to regenerate when it has these microabrasions, and also opening the way for infections. We can also have corneal swelling from the back of the cornea not functioning appropriately because of lack of oxygen. And we can get increased inflammation, which leads to contact lens discomfort, dry eyes, and leads to this more and more. It's cumulative. So if you miswear your lenses, sleep in your lenses when you're in your 20s, when you reach your 40s, your 50s, you might say, hey, doc, I could wear contacts no issue when I was 20. What happened? I can't wear contacts anymore. Why can't you find anything that works for me? And I know that this is something that Dr. Drexler sees often in his medically necessary contact lens clinic, because he's seeing these patients that can't wear traditional lenses. I don't know if you want to comment on that, Dr. Drexler.
I think that's a great observation. Probably 10 to 20% of my patients that are referred to me by our cornea department are people who have had some kind of damage from a soft contact lens, that have had not just neovascularization, not just vascular change, but they end up that junction that you see there on the screen between the white and the cornea where the vessels are, that's where all the stem cells are. So what those contact lenses do, a soft contact lens sits right on top of those stem cells, and it damages them. It damages the cornea's ability to regenerate, and it ends up causing problems, so they can't wear a soft contact lens anymore. And that's why we end up needing to fit a special type of lens, a more therapeutic type of lens, to help them get better.
Absolutely. So before we dive into new technology, I wanted to touch on our makeup wearers in the group for tips for better comfort, vision, and safety when you're wearing makeup with contact lenses. I know we mentioned this several times, but clean hands. Clean hands, insert your lenses prior to applying makeup or moisturizers. You can get makeup or moisturizer on the lens, under the lens, which can lead to microabrasions, which can lead to discomfort, blurred vision. You can end up turning a monthly lens on day one into a lens you have to throw away that day because it's absorbed that oil and you can't see well out of it anymore. You always want to use water-based creams. That's going to help because then they'll dissolve a little bit better than an oil in your eye. If you wear eyeshadow, you want to start with an eye primer because what happens is that's going to hold the eyeshadow on your eyelid better so that you don't get flakes or sparkles into the eye, and that can cause discomfort. Eyeliner, the biggest thing I'm constantly telling patients with makeup is eyeliner on the lash line, not the waterline. What is the waterline? The waterline is where the opening of our meibomian glands are. The meibomian glands produce the lipid or oil layer of our tear film, and if those are covered by makeup, they can't excrete their oils. So not only are we uncomfortable, but we're opening ourselves up to styes and infections. Another big thing, fiber mascaras. These were huge a few years ago. And I know I saw patients with the little fibers embedded in their cornea, embedded in their conj, particularly contact lens wearers. It would get underneath the contact and then it just scrapes the cornea and causes an opening for bacteria to get in. Just like our contact lens cases, every 3 months, you want to replace your eye makeup. And you want to remove your contact lenses prior to removing your makeup. And you always want to go for oil-free makeup removers. And just to hone in on this, no makeup on the waterline. Over here, you see a patient's meibomian glands, or the openings of their glands are obstructed by eyeliner. You also see that it doesn't look like they changed their contacts on time because there's protein deposits there. Not good tear exchange, that can also lead to that. And over here on the right, we see a patient with clean, healthy meibomian glands, those little tiny circular openings there. Nice olive oil-like lipids come out of there. When they get clogged up, it's more like a thick butter, and that's not comfortable, nor is it healthy. And just to go over a few cosmetics that are safe for contact lenses, these are a few brands that in general, most of their products are approved for contacts or have been ophthalmologist tested. Now, if you have any specific product that you want to ask about, feel free to send me an email after all of this is over, and I'd be happy to get that information for you. Let's dive into some research.
Okay, so we said earlier that it's relatively straightforward for us to look at our habits, improve our habits, and minimize the risk that we're at for having a problem. But to make real headway, or even more headway, we want to look back and see why the cornea, why the eye is developing the problems that it is. And for this next part about biofilm analysis, I have to thank Dr. Robert Shanks. He did amazing work on this, and the group at the Campbell Microbiology Lab at UPMC have been fantastic in kind of giving us information about this. It's a wonderful thing. So I started dealing with biofilms about 8-9 years ago, and I had the hardest time figuring out what a biofilm was. So I tried to kind of break it down to a simple thing. A biofilm is essentially a community of bacteria. It's basically a group of bacteria that kind of hang out together, and like a lot of bacteria, they don't have to be the same type. It can be bacteria and fungi and the viruses. They can coexist, and they kind of come together in this apartment complex and live together. And it's pretty much a natural state of bacteria out in the world. You don't get a lot of solo bacteria. They usually come in herds. And the difficulty, or the reason that we pay so much attention to them, is they're really, really strong things. They're very resistant to all our treatments that we tend, and also the things that our body does as a reaction to them being there. So if their defenses are better than our offenses, we develop problems. And you think again, as we go through this, think of it as a community. So you have these bad players move into the community, and they kind of all hang out together, and they start getting stronger and stronger. They can take over the community. And that's what biofilms tend to do. it's important to remember that not all biofilms are bad. Your eye, your body in general, your gut, your eye, all your mucous membranes have a natural microbiome. It has natural bacteria, it has natural things that are there that it needs to have there to be healthy and functional. Right? So not all biofilms are bad for us. So this is kind of as good as I could find to give me a good image of what a biofilm was. These planktonic cells on the left, think of plankton. Plankton floats out in the ocean. It's a plankton here. They don't tend to go in groups. They just kind of float around. That's what a planktonic cell does. When they attach, they kind of get into groups. So now all of a sudden they're forming a community. And all of a sudden this community kind of comes back and they start talking to each other. There's actually cell mediators that each one of these particles talk to each other. They communicate, and that communication makes them stronger. And they keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger until they start coming off into the community more. So that's when you get a biofilm, it's a pretty condensed cluster. It's an organized cluster. They develop a community and they develop a matrix that actually connects one of them. So it's kind of if you think of an apartment complex, each apartment has a different group of pathogens living in it, but they still talk to each other. They're still connected, and it's a pretty strong structure. That's what becomes dangerous to the surfaces in the body. This, in more particular to the eye, those biofilms like to attack breaks. They like to attack weak spots. It finds a weakness. So you think of, again, moving into the community, these guys don't want to move into the most secure building in the neighborhood. They want to move into the one that's easy to break in the front door. So they can open the door and move in and they're happy. So these biofilms look for the weak spot in a contact lens case. They look for the weak spot on a contact lens. They look for a weak spot on your cornea. That's where they set up shop, and that's how they do their damage. So they'll kind of look for those areas, conglomerate there, come together there, and that's how they cause their problem. That's why we get so worried about breaks in tissue. If your cornea breaks down, we're giving them a place to live, and that's the problem. Usually these biofilms, when we typically think about biofilms, are usually on an abiotic surface, a non-organic surface. So they'll be on a contact lens case. They'll be on a contact lens. They'll be on, we put something called a punctal plug that we put in the tear drains in your eyes. They're silicone, they're polymers. That's where these biofilms like to hang out. So those are the things that by our contact lens habits, we can control that to some degree. We can keep our lenses clean. And Dr. Butts said earlier, it takes about a week for a biofilm to form. So if we have a contact lens that we're throwing away daily, we're not going to get a biofilm, which is the solution right there. And so there's ways that we can control this part of it. Other thing, biofilms we're finding now can actually form on body surfaces like the eye. And again, remember I said these aren't all bad. These can be positive or negative. So in the sense of a break in the cornea, and we get a biofilm that attacks that break or the area there, we can get an infection from it. By the same token, we can kind of boost the normal biome and get that normal biome to form a biofilm that's actually protective. And it keeps these things out. So our research now, Dr. Shank's research is along those lines. How do we find a biofilm, promote a biofilm that actually keeps viruses out, keeps bacteria out, keeps the acanthamoeba out, so we aren't as susceptible to it if we are exposed to it. Why is it important? And we were talking earlier, biofilms are 1,000 times more tolerant to antibiotics. So we're basically inducing antibiotic resistance. So when we start treating these people, we do all the right things and we get all the wrong answers. We look and say, okay, we have this ulcer, we treat it with a great antibiotic, but we got no response from it. And that might be because the defenses of the biofilm are too strong. And we have to find some way to break down that biofilm, to break down the gates. And one of the ways we do it now is to take that wound and clean it. You brush off all the biofilm off the top, and then you get more effect from it. But a lot of the research now, if we can find a way of either making protective biofilms or to find some kind of element that actually breaks down biofilms, it would make our treatments much more effective and much safer. This is a piece of research, and it's not very far along now, but it's a project that we're in conjunction with the University of Pittsburgh Industrial Engineering Department, that we're using a 3D printer to create a 3D contact lens matrix out of a material that is bioresistant. So basically, we're using the material, if bacteria does attach to it, it will kill it, but we're making the matrix in such a way that the bacteria can't attach to it. So we aren't giving them a home. So that biofilm that wants to develop, we're not giving them a place to live. But if they somehow sneak in, we're going to have something there to back them off. And that's something, again, if we can do that in a cost-effective way and mass produce that, you can have a daily disposable contact lens that actually to some degree protects you from these things even more. You're muted, Ellen.
Thank you, guys. So technology that we have now, not in the research stage, we're really excited about this because for years, about 75% of the market has been extended wear lenses. And there hasn't really been a lot of technology in preventing infection. It's really all been towards comfort. And we're really, really excited about this new lens that came out this year. So the lens that came out is designed to mimic the cornea's glycocalyx. The cornea's glycocalyx prevents adhesion of bacteria, proteins, lipids. And this contact does something similar by using polymer nanofibers that have negative and positive charges very close together, that has a net neutral, so that it repels bacteria, lipids, and proteins. In addition to this, when you put this lens in a multi-purpose solution, most lenses will absorb some of the preservative. And as Dr. Drexler mentioned, when it absorbs that preservative and then releases it in the eye, it can cause damage, microabrasions to the front surface, which again, as we've been mentioning, opens the door to infection. So now we have a lens that not only repels this bacteria, protein deposits, but also prevents preservative uptake, which is better for our patients with allergies and better at reducing or preventing infections. So if you look at the studies here, some of our industry standard lenses were put up against this new lens. They simulated 30 days of wear and then dipped the contact lens in a solution of Pseudomonas that was made to glow under the microscope. As you can look at the new lens called Total 30, there's virtually no bacteria adherence versus our other lenses have quite significant bacteria adherence. And the same goes for lipids. If you look in the other figure on the right, they did the same thing with these lipids. They looked at both the surface of the lens as well as deep in the lens to see if the lipids were absorbed into the lens. And they saw that this new lens did not allow adherence, but it also didn't allow the lipids to be absorbed into the lens, which cannot be said for the lenses that we've been using for years here. So we're really excited about this technology. And just to leave you with a little, don't let your Halloween lenses haunt you. Oftentimes, every year we see this with our patients who get over-the-counter lenses. Typically, they're untrained wearers. They've never worn contacts before. They just want a cat eye or a red eye for Halloween, and they get more of a red eye than they bargained for. Oftentimes, this happens on damage during insertion and removal because patients or these people were never trained to put in and take out their lenses appropriately. Also, the lenses were never fit by a practitioner, so they could be too tight and allow for insufficient oxygen transmission. And then if they're too tight on removal, you can actually take some of the cornea away and cause an abrasion. That's what happened to this patient on the left here, or got some over-the-counter Halloween lenses that were not FDA approved and went to remove the lens. It was too tight. She opened up her cornea, Pseudomonas attacked, and then she ended up with a really terrible infection. So remember that these lenses are often counterfeit because the FDA classifies contact lenses as medical devices. So we don't know what solution they're using. The solution doesn't need to be sterile because these people are not following FDA guidelines. So don't get more than you bargained for with those red eyes and avoid the over-the-counter Halloween lenses. We're happy to help you. There are reputable FDA-approved Halloween costume lenses. We're happy to fit you with those if anyone's interested. And here are our references. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you both again for a very informative and very enlightening presentation, because I think there's so much here that many of us just were really not understanding about this, about use of contact lenses. We already have a few questions. We'll get to those, and I can see that we'll probably be getting a few more. So I'll remind the audience, this is the time. You can certainly type in your questions here below, and we'll get to those now. Are daily disposables available for astigmatism? I know this is a question I've heard from members of my family as well.
Absolutely. The parameters are even expanding. One of my favorite daily disposable lenses just went up to a -275 on astigmatism. So each year we see that the parameters of these lenses, the technology of these lenses, like I said, technology for daily disposable, every year we see something new. It's really the extended wear that technology seems to lag behind, because we want people in daily disposables.
Yeah, I can see that. And you know, you went over some benefits of that, but what are the cost benefit ratio for daily disposables versus long wearing lenses?
So I could take that one. So it really depends. So as far as extended wear, your 2-week, your monthly lenses, the upfront cost is going to be more for a daily disposable, but you also have to remember that you're not buying solutions, you're not worrying about cases, less likely to need an extra doctor visit for an infection. So the cost really, I'm not going to say it balances out, but you also have to think that because companies really want our patients to have a lower risk for infection, we really do have several rebates for the daily disposable lenses. And also, there's a plethora of options. We're not going to start you out in, the Maserati of contact lenses if you don't need it. We can start you on the lower end, see how you feel, see how the oxygen transmissibility works for you, and we can always bump you up as needed. So contact lenses prices are going to range anywhere you go, but definitely you're looking at, I would say, at least double for a daily disposable.
Thank you very much. Kind of along the same lines, other than aesthetics, are there any benefits to wearing contact lenses over glasses? Are they more effective or the same when it comes to treating vision issues?
That's something that I deal with quite frequently. So for the average person, there is an optical benefit. So if you have a high prescription, you put that into a pair of glasses, you get an induced distortion. It will magnify, it'll minify what you see. You look in the peripheral part of an eyeglass lens and it's going to distort things. You don't get that same optical distortion with a contact lens because it's on your eye. So it's more realistic or more typical vision that you get with a contact lens. In the sense of a specialty lens, if you have an irregular cornea, if you have a lot of astigmatism, you have keratoconus, those are things that a contact lens will actually give you much better vision with, because it actually recreates the shape of the cornea optically to perform better.
Wonderful. I think that probably again answers a lot of questions people may not have thought of. So to recognize any microlesions to the cornea due to the use of contact lenses as early as possible, what should be the frequency of eye exams?
So usually for a routine contact lens wearer, once you know the lens fits well, once you know that the wearer is getting a routine that's good, a yearly exam is fine. Right? I think that's where the burden falls on the contact lens wearer a little bit, to make sure that they're following through on what they need to do and paying attention. And what I tell my patients is a lot of times is, when you take your lens out right away, see how it feels. So if you feel better with the lens in than you do with the lens out, there might be irritation on your cornea that you're not feeling because your lens acts like a Band-Aid. And if you take the lens out and you feel it all of a sudden, maybe get it checked, because that kind of tells you probably do have some low-grade irritation there. And if you pay attention to when it's small, it helps.
Again, thank you. So this is more of a comment. It is a comment rather than a question. It says, wonderful talk. Thanks. I agree. It was definitely a wonderful talk. Now, would it be better to have refractive surgery instead of wearing contact lenses? Who wants to take that one?
I
think we can both take it. You go first.
I worked in a LASIK practice in Florida for a very long time. And I think that that was back when we first started doing LASIK, doing refractive surgery. And it was a fascinating thing to do. And I think what we've learned more than anything else over the years, as technology gives us more and more information about your cornea, that when refractive surgery is done on the right people in the right way, it's incredibly productive. And I think the trick is making sure that you get the people who are going to make a good decision as to whether you're a good candidate. I had LASIK done almost 30 years ago, and it's phenomenal. I mean, even back in that day where our technology was relatively new, it's a great thing. So I think the procedure, refractive procedure, the right thing for the right people, done by the right people is really good. Compared to a contact lens, I think that there is a good comparison. Risk-wise, there's a risk with both, as we've seen today. So I think it all carries a risk. And I think that, again, if you're in a situation where a contact lens works great for you and you're happy with it, keep doing it. If you're in a situation where allergies, dryness, irritation, astigmatism, things that you really can't get a contact lens to work well for you, then it makes more sense to me to consider a refractive procedure.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Wow, maybe a different answer than I expected. There's pluses and minuses, I guess, to both. So very interesting. All right, so for those slightly over 60, this isn't me asking that question. I'm not there yet. With old, I guess, with drier eyes, do you recommend a contact lens that can be used for occasional wear, and what would that be?
Yeah, so there's actually a new lens that came out this year. It's the first daily disposable that the research actually highlighted what was done in the DEWS study for dry eye. And I'm having a lot of success with dry eye patients. I think the importance with contact lens wear and dry eye is to really treat the dryness first before you dive into trying to find the right lens for the patient. I myself have dry eye and I love my contacts. I think I wear a brand that works so well for me, but I also have tried everything out there and I treat my dry eye before I started wearing contact lenses. So I think that's the key. Treat your dry eye, then start with the contact lenses. And we have a multitude of options out there. Will everyone be able to wear soft contact lenses? No. And if you're not able to wear a soft contact lens because of your dryness, that's when Dr. Drexler comes in, because he has special lenses that can be worn, in particular with patients that have ocular surface disorders like dry eye.
Okay, another question just came in. Can you get daily disposables for every prescription?
Yeah, not every prescription, but most prescriptions. One thing that has not come out yet that's available in monthly lenses is a lens that's for both astigmatism and multifocal. So presbyopia, the inability to see up close, as well as astigmatism. But I think that's on the horizon next few years because the technology exists. It's just, is there a patient population that wants that? Because obviously the lens will be more expensive.
Okay. All right. Well, and it looks like we've reached the end of the questions, but I'm going to thank you both again. And I'll tell you, I think that our audience here, I want to remind you that we do record these sessions and they will be available to you through our website at www.eyeandear.org. Please send this to your family members. I bet you there are some on this webinar that maybe have some. I was thinking of the things that you presented here regarding over years of use of contact lenses and how if they're not used appropriately can lead to problems down the road where you may not be able to use them as as an older adult. So I think there's many things here that'd be very good for those who are starting to wear contact lenses and very good lessons to learn. So thank you all. Thank you for coming, and really very good program. Great questions.
Thank you.
And enjoyed all the participation. And I still don't see any more. So we're going to say Have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Take care.